Let's move over to Kendrick. Kendrick and these Emmy nominations. Now, I told you I got a couple topics that I want to spin off of this. So let's take a look. What do we got going on with Kendrick's Emmy nominations? We see today the Emmys announced their nominations for this year's show. And among them, Kendrick Lamar's halftime performance at the Super Bowl was nominated 4 times. The award categories are Outstanding Variety Special Live, Outstanding Directing from a Variety Special, Outstanding Music Direction, Choreographed Variety Reality. Now, before everybody starts jumping straight to Not Like Us, which is one of the biggest songs in hip hop history and one of the pinnacles of his career. Not Like Us. It's numbers wise, charting wise, accolades wise, and all that. Before we do all that, let's take a step back and remember how much went into that Super Bowl. I think there was a number of thousands of people involved in the set creation and running and delivering of that show, that little 10, 15, whatever minute show. There's thousands of people that went into it. And if you watch, especially from the outside, if there's any views that you see from not like the actual produced Super Bowl show, but like people's cell phone footage and whatnot, you see thousands of people running off and on the field, carrying the lights, switching the stages, move this over here, do that, the dancing. People was at one point giving Kendrick credit for running all around and walking a whole football field worth of this while he's rapping and maintaining his breath control and delivering lyrics and performing still and dancing and all that. There's so much that went into this show. So before the over Drake stands of the world just say Not Like Us or Drake beef, right? I shall remain consistent. I was somebody that was offended, if you guys remember those streams. I was offended at people that watched the halftime show and said all this is about Drake. I was offended because the whole overtone and message of America's oppression, the whole thing with Uncle Sam, played by Samuel L. Jackson, the game to be played, the way Samuel L. Jackson represented Uncle Sam was trying to dumb him down at times and say, don't do this, do that instead. You have to show this, you have to show corporate America that. And the way that whole theme was baked into the show, the American flag dancers and everything. As a black man, if somebody walks up to you and says, the only thing that show represents is a Drake diss, you should feel away because he's attacking. He used an opportunity to go left as well. Like the Drake thing is always going to be there. Of course, we want to see if he's going to do Not Like Us. Yes, we know that, right? That was, but me included, that was us being shallow. That was being shallow because when he got there and he used the opportunity to expand on a black American's plight, that to me is very important because he did it at the halftime show. And all those people that sat there on TV or in the building and they didn't understand, that's cool. This is some of America's problem. The not understanding of the injustices, the differences, the biases, the blocks between our cultures, our nationalities, our races, still to this day. And Kendrick did that on the biggest stage of the year. So before we get shallow and our minds go, oh, Not Like Us and Drake beef, remember what that show did and what it meant. Okay. So thank God for these nominations. Now, let me get off that and get to the petty side. All right, we're done with the substance. You knew there was going to be a catch coming, right? I got you. All right, now let's get to the petty side. I pulled up a list of many, not all, of Kendrick's accolades and some of the records that he's broken ever since the battle. Incredible shit. All right, so streaming and online records. First rapper ever to surpass 90 million monthly Spotify listeners. That was landing in February 2025. Later crossing 100 million, setting the all-time record among rappers. 100 million plus monthly listeners, a milestone no other rapper has achieved. Billboard chart records. Not Like Us debuted at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 May 18, 2024. a career first for a solo debut, first rap song to debut #1 with the shortened 5-day tracking week. Longest running solo chart topper in his career. Returned to #1 multiple times, including after Super Bowl 2025, becoming the first non-holiday song to return to #1 3 separate times with months in between. Like, how do you lose, cool off, and other things happen, other songs, other albums release, and this shit has the nerve to jump back to #1? Now we know how, like certain promotions, if your album drops, if you go on tour, like these are things that make people revisit some of the stuff that you had going on maybe months ago, but it's not easy to do. Wow. Obviously, he set the record for it. Became the longest charting rap song on Billboard Hot 100 history, spending 53 consecutive weeks on the chart. Broke records on hot rap songs #1 for 26 weeks and hot R&B hip hop songs. Luther featuring SZA set a new all-time record with 23 weeks at #1. This is all stuff that got performed at the halftime show, right? #1 on hot R&B hip hop songs and hot rap songs, surpassing Drake's previous runs. Amassed 13 straight weeks on #1 on the Hot 100, making it his and SZA's longest running #1 single. Holds a record of 27 weeks at #1 on Billboard Hot Pop Songs, overtaking Kendrick's own Not Like Us. Luther is a smash, a historic smash as well. Debuted at #3, later topped 100 March 1st, 2025. All right, so that's Not Like Us, and that's Luther. Now let's talk about the album GNX that debuted November 2024. Debuted at #1 on Billboard 200, marking his 5th consecutive #1 album. All 12 tracks from GNX debuted on the Hot 100, sweeping the entire top 5. Squabble Up #1, other tracks #2 through 5, tying Drake, Taylor Swift, and the Beatles. Fucking Beatles. GNX recorded the biggest streaming week for hip hop and R&B album in 2024 and the third biggest overall. Wow. Became the first rapper to have 3 albums simultaneously in the Billboard 200 top 10. GNX's Damn, Good Kid, Mad City. After the Super Bowl in 2025. Yeah, Super Bowl was definitely a calculated move, man. It is. Every artist wants to do the Super Bowl. And you're like, if I can produce 10% of what Kendrick produced after appearing on the Super Bowl, I need that in my life. 5%. If you do the numbers, maybe 1%. Real shit. Hot rap albums. GNX became his 6th #1 album on the chart. All right. So that's GNX. That's Luther. That's Not Like Us. Let's talk about the live performances and tours. Performed Not Like Us at the Super Bowl halftime show, February 2025, the first solo hip hop artist to headline the halftime show. America's sport, right? His Grand National tour with SZA from April 2025. From April to December 2025. Yeah, Seattle show grossed 14.8 million, a record for hip hop concerts. The Dallas show grossed 11.8 million, making him the highest grossing black male artist in a single performance. The tour amassed 256 million gross from 1.1 million tickets, becoming the highest grossing co-headlining tour ever. Yo, we're not done. All right, let's go to awards and certifications. Not Like Us swept all 5 Grammy nominations, making it the most honored track in Grammy history. Record of the Year, Song of the Year, Best Rap Performance, Best Rap Song, Best Music Video. Cumulative streams pushed it towards RIAA Diamond status, 10 million plus units sold by July 2025. Yo, people, let's do 2 takes off of that, 2 topics off of that. The first one, I'm gonna say fuck it. Let me go left. When you read a list like that, and there's more, that's just like a summary. You know, there's a lot of like little accolades and small little awards and stuff that wasn't mentioned in there. You almost, for me, you almost say there's no way you can do this without there being a supreme coordinated effort. like like when you summarize it and you look at it all at the same time, it's not like, all right, GNX debuts number one, and then all right, we take that, and then a month later, oh, he sweeps the Grammys. All right, oh cool, shout out to him, he's killing. And then we find out these tour numbers, like, oh, he broke the record, 14.8 million. Huh, that's crazy, right? When you look at it all at the same time, and be like, oh shit, UMG might have spent a couple $1 billion to do that. I mean, let's be real. You can't do this type of shit without help, right? It's just a type of help, right? You gotta have help. You gotta have promotion. You gotta have marketing. You gotta have multiple teams and the PG Langs and the Dave Freeze and the Lucian Granges and the Jay-Z's and real talk. You gotta have all this aligning with you. And when you're a power, everybody that has been into power has shit behind them. You could be the president, you got the secretary of defense, you got all this behind you, right? You could be the owner of, you could be Jay-Z, you got all these people behind you. That's how it goes. It's the type of help, right? Drake is over there versus UMG's lawsuit saying the type of help was wrong, right? Because when you look at the summary of Kendrick, and then we also look at the Mike Jack of this modern era, which is Drake, number wise. There's no way either one of them get to where they. I don't give a fuck how much talent you have. There's no way you get to be either one of them without these factors also enforcing and helping and pushing and adding and navigating and making decisions and placement. Like even Jay-Z saying, sorry, Wayne, and sorry, this person, Kendrick halftime show. Is all of this stuff lines up to create this. Now, you don't take nothing from Kendrick though, because when you look at shit like the Seattle show, 14.8 million setting the record. I don't give a fuck how good UMG is, how much money they spend. You're not making that many people in Seattle go into their pocket, and decide to spend their money like that. No. To get people to spend that type of money, the coordinated effort that also involves the artistry that makes the fans want to be a part of it has to be key, right? It's not coincidence that I chose the Chiefs versus the Eagles to be my first Super Bowl to attend ever. I could have went to a million Super Bowls, right? It's not coincidence. The moment, even artistically, that Kendrick created, that was a big. I told my friends going in all the time, I said, people, we need to go. I don't care where we need to go. Not only do we get a chance to see the Super Bowl, right, which we watch every year anyway, right, whether we're at a bar, a restaurant, at home, it's the Super Bowl, right? So that's number one. Number two, um, I'm not a big super. I'm not out here being an Eagles guy or a Chiefs guy, but I love history and I do love those where were you when it happened moments. And it is an opportunity to possibly see a three-peat for the first time in Super Bowl history with Patrick Mahomes, right? So I wanted to see that. And then you got this major, one of the biggest hip hop moments of all time. Me being a hip hop head, I want to see this halftime show. That was major for me, right? So there's UMG, indirectly, I guess you could say, but those songs and me showing up to the halftime show, wanting to see if I can hear fucking Meet the Grams and all this type of shit. That's Kendrick and his team, and that's the battle, and that's the artistry of it. When I played those songs, I was taken over by the artistry of those moments that was getting created. If these were whack songs and all this and a whack battle turnout and he dropped the ball, when he went, UMG is not going into the studio and writing that shit. I still say to this day, Meet the Grams is one of the deadliest diss tracks to come out of hip hop history. It didn't take off. It ain't one that you could play on the clubs. In the clubs, it ain't for the radio like that. I think that's one of the most scathing diss tracks I've ever heard in my life. Ever. Meet the Grams. And that moments like that didn't even take off numbers wise still had me trapped in what Kendrick was doing. If you feed me a Meet the Grams, I'm here for everything because that moment alone is trapping me for like months. Like, is he going to do another one of those? Is he going to say that? Is that going to be true? Is you get trapped by it, and that's what Kendrick did. You can't take no credit from Kendrick and his immediate team, but there's a lot that comes in as well. All right, now here's the second take and the second topic coming off of this fucking these numbers and these accolades that we just read. Um, the GOAT status, the legendary GOAT conversation. Let's have a little bit of it, and if it's not already happening enough, let's add to it right now. Okay. I see somebody put in the chat, Nikki and Cart. Okay. Cause I know Nikki got some shit going on. I'm skipping that today. We cool. Let's talk a little bit about this GOAT status and ranking, right? I'm a guy outside of like basketball. And there's a lot of arenas that I like to establish multiple goats. In battle rap, I think there's multiple goats, right? In in football, there's multiple goats, right? To me personally. I don't like to not see Barry Sanders in a GOAT conversation. He doesn't even have a championship, right? I don't like to see my favorite player AI outside of it, but in the NBA, I go with one person, MJ, right? But I have no argument and no problem with people that put LeBron or even some other people in that GOAT argument as well. I'm cool with it, right? In hip hop, it's never going to be able to just be one, right? There's too many preferences about even how to define it. Some people like to use some of the elements of the first, and then people go to people like Rakim, early people like that. People like to have the numbers argument, which is always a argument that's important. And then you start talking about like the Jay-Z's of the world. People like just pure mastery of the art form, and then people go towards like the Nas's of the world. Um, Lyrical dominance and numbers. You start looking at the Eminems of the world. um, Influence, impact. People like Kanye could come into the conversation. Um, all of the above. Kendrick Lamar, like you know, and if he's not in the GOAT conversation enough, it needs to happen more. The bodies of work is something that needs to be on your resume if you're in the GOAT conversation. Kendrick checks the box. How about a classic album? At least one. Do you have a reasonable doubt? Do you have a blueprint? Do you have a it was written? Do you have a Illmatic? Do you have a ATL aliens? Do you have a life after death? Like do you have a Machiavelli? Like, do you have one classic hip hop pinnacle that is stamped in hip hop? Kendrick does. Good Kid, Mad City. He does. And some people are even in time. People might add GNX. 5-10 years from now, people might say a classic hip hop moment and pinnacle is GNX. They might do that, right? I think it's too early, but Eminem, do you have a Slim Shady LP? Groundbreaking. Do you have a Get Rich or Die Trying? Right? Kendrick checks those boxes so far. The awards, being recognized publicly, he's been doing that even before the battle, right? Pulitzer prizes and all this type of shit, right? He's been doing that. Artistry, which is normally the most important to us. There's no talking about his artistry. There's if you don't fuck with Kendrick's artistry, it's a personal preference thing. Like if I hear somebody say, I don't like his voice changes at times, that's a personal thing. But the God-given talent that man has to put pen to paper and to formulate his thoughts and be creative and build these pictures for us in an artistic manner, it's God tier level, okay? And then when we get into numbers, spinning off of the topic, when we start talking about numbers, it's that. And I think the numbers thing is always so important because that's even how like a Jay-Z separates from a Nas. Now Nas is $100 million up and has all types of numbers-based accolades and awards or whatever. But there's a big gap between Nas and Jay-Z, numbers-wise. Big gap. And not just money, just all these different pockets. It is a big gap. Okay. And Kendrick having these type of numbers that he has and awards and sweeping the Grammys and perform here number one halftime show and all this type of stuff, it enforces the artistry and the album and the longevity and the influence and all the things that make up these god tier and these goat caliber people. The numbers really enforces it all, and you just can't escape it. You can't escape it. And this run that Kendrick is on right now, I don't think any of us looked at it and anticipated it would still be a year out removed from the battle. Right? This is so monumental navigation and decision making and placement and everything. It's monumental, and I'm proud to actually watch him unfold it, because the amount of money he's generating, the amount of eyes on hip hop, the amount of it's just a beautiful thing, and you have to be a hater to or a super Drake fan to look at it from an angle that discredits it, right? So I say all that to say, if Kendrick, who I am done sleeping on when it comes to navigation, if he now extends this continued run out for another year, another 2 years, right? He definitely will start getting compared to the people that were doing it before him, at that level. I think that's when people are going to start comparing him more to Eminem and more to Jay-Z and the likes of that nature. And this is where you'll see the Kanye's 2 years from now continue to find ways to hate on Kendrick. I should have been on that Cardi album and shit like that. Like, fuck, he's past me, clearly, you know? And this is what Drake asked for. He said, I'm looking to see who's going to be one of them niggas at the turn of the millennium, right? And shit, I study rap battles for a living. It's that. And even if he doesn't maintain the level of momentum that he's on right now, even if it's cut in half by the time we're at 2027, right? Even if it's cut in half, that is still a lot of dominance. That's still a lot of work. That's still a lot of touring, a lot of shows, a lot of music, a lot of numbers. He just needs another 2 years of relevance, damn near, and it's a Michael Jackson type of run. It feels like it just feels crazy. I'm not saying Michael Jackson numbers, but it's incredible. I'm gonna leave it like this. When I be saying his shit should be studied years later, I'm not exaggerating. Like, I want to know the details of how they put all this together, from the business to the label to PG Lang to the rollouts to the decisions. Where do we tour? What cities? What the order of things? The album layouts. And I want to know more about this, because this type of stuff doesn't happen this long, this impactful, these type of numbers, these type of accolades on accident. This is mastery. It's incredible shit.